But I also think he's an idiot. He's not an idiot. I got to cut that out.
You didn't name drop. Does he listen?
He did listen to one episode. I don't know if he listened to more.
How many people do you work with? It could be anybody.
I have come on a mission of gravest consequence. For I am the Watcher, member of an ancient race far older than man. But though our power is great, we are pledged only to watch, never to interfere. But now mankind faces the greatest danger it has ever known. The danger of
the Watchers of Earth 199,999.
Welcome to the Watchers of Earth 199,999. I am your host, Andrew, and joining me as always is my co-host, Seth.
Mm-hmm.
Our third co-host, Joe, couldn't be here today because his mommy's coming, and we decided not to help clean up his huge party that he was having. But our fourth co-host, Uatu, is here, but is sworn only to watch and never interfere.
So today we watched episode 7 of What If? Thor Were an Only Child, which originally aired September 22nd, 2021. Directed by Brian Andrews, written by A.C. Bradley. Thor, who never learned to be a good hero, Andrew, throws an out-of-control intergalactic party on Earth. So, Andrew, in a sentence or less, what did I think? I think there are people that really enjoy this.
So, Seth, in a sentence or less, I'm going to blow not only your mind, but my own mind. I really hated this one the first time through. This time, I think this is my favorite one yet. I think it has a lot of problems, but in complete isolation, as just its own thing, as a one and done little thing, this is doing a lot of what I kind of wish the Marvel Universe would do, and I've sat here the whole time going, I know Seth is just like, this is just as zany and stupid and jokey as the normal Marvel Universe. I felt this like...
It has a different tone.
This felt like the comedy tone that everyone always pretends Ant-Man has.
And like I said, my mind is not blown. When I was watching it, I thought there are people who are going to really enjoy this episode.
Well, we can just jump right in. Like I said, the first time through, I hated this one. I thought it was just like a stupid, complete waste of time. And a lot of it was just kind of the whiplash of like all of these being so much just like a stupid, boring, bland, what if we rewatched the movies with something different. And this one was just like straight up, like, what if we just took these characters and put them into a stupid, like, cartoon comedy?
Hangover?
Yeah, I think it has like a lot of comedy logic, like cartoon comedy logic. And I just think like a lot of the jokes were hitting me better than I thought. I didn't really laugh at anything. I did chuckle at one thing.
What was that? Or is that a put up?
That's a put up.
All right.
I did chuckle out loud at one thing. But like most of it, I was just kind of like, I was amused by it. I think a lot of it is just I knew what it was this time. So I wasn't like trying to wrap my brain around it like I was the first time, trying to figure out what it wanted to be and what it was trying to do.
I didn't have that problem. I think very early on, like Thor lands and Jane sees him and it's like the Disney-esque, like Disney princess, Disney prince. There's like the music stuff. I think from there, I was like, okay, this is just a total Disney rom-com prince thing, and then with the partying, I was just like, yep, this is just like, I mean, it's funny. I mean, it's not exactly the same, but it's funny. We watch this now after we had a talk like a week ago about R-rated comedies. And granted, this is not an R-rated adult comedy, but I think, like I had mentioned The Hangover, and I was reading something here, which is why I mentioned it. It shares a lot of that DNA, I think, just without the F word, so you like it more.
I think I did. It does too. I think the big thing that I said, like I had to wrap my brain around was, I think, especially later than all of that, early on I was like, okay, this is like a comedy. But then later on, it's a comedy running on cartoon logic. And that's completely fine in and of itself. And this time I watched it going, this is completely fine in and of itself. But the first time I was just like, this is so, every bit of this is so clearly part of the Marvel Universe. And like we said before, the Marvel Universe is just timelines, and so, like, it's not like this is a universe where cartoon physics are a thing. Not that there's necessarily a lot of cartoon physics, but just, like, a lot of, like, none of this really makes sense if you think about it. It's all just, like, cartoon logic. It's, you know, characters can kind of do whatever they need to do as long as it's funny. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of trouble wrapping my brain around that the first time, because I just kept thinking like, why is this okay now? And kind of like I joked earlier, like, I think the humor is a little more zany and a little more, like, constant than the Marvel movies proper. But it also just kind of is, like, all Marvel movies are kind of like zany comedy. There's, like, a lot of stupid little comedy beats that it's like, yeah, that's no different than what you would see in a Marvel movie anyway.
But see, I guess, like, my argument there is that, I mean, we complain about the quips and the comedy in Marvel movies because they're not comedies. They're movies with one-liners. Like, this episode is a comedy episode. I mean, this is, for all intents and purposes, a cartoon. You know, knowing all of the episodes are technically a cartoon. But, like, this is a cartoon. And I probably misunderstood you, or I'm getting into a different topic here. But, like, I guess I didn't have that much of a disconnect of trying to figure out what it was. I think it helps that it is What If, and it is just, I mean, yeah, everything's so interconnected, and this is the most like, hey, I know that thing. Hey, that's a reference I know. Hey, I get that. Oh, look, that's a thing.
It's a little funny because you were saying earlier how, like, I was talking before about how I don't like adult comedies, but I like this. Granted, this is not an adult comedy specifically because it doesn't have those things in adult comedies that I specifically hate. But I find it funny just because we've sat through so many of these movies, and, I mean, much like Kyle, my brother, has complained that, like, he can never figure out what I'm going to say about anything. After I watch something and he asks what I think, it's like throwing a dart at a board. He has no idea whether I'm going to like something or hate something because I could like something for the exact same reason I hated something last week.
And I think that's totally fair. I mean, it all depends on how something handles something.
I'm just saying, like, I am very fickle, and in this podcast, you have been, at times, just as fluid. But I think a constant for you, especially, I think late game, it's been different. But I think a constant through majority of these movies is we sit down and then I'm just like, I just kind of accepted it for what it was. And you're just like, I can't. It's part of the Marvel Universe. They're all part of the Marvel Universe and they all are the same thing. And I remember multiple episodes you bringing up, like, it's part of the Marvel Universe. My brain can't mash that together. And then in this one, you're like, yeah, I just, like, let it exist, which is completely valid. And I'm the one who's always just like, yeah, I just let it exist. And I'm like, my brain, the first time through, the second time like I said, I was fine with it. But the first time through, my brain was just like, this is part of the Marvel Universe, and I don't understand how or why.
But because it's What If, it kind of absolves all of that for me. I mean,
I would say that if there were other episodes, if we weren't 2 episodes away from the end, and now we're doing something that finally is just like, this is a universe where all the laws are different. Like, this is the comedy universe. Because it's not like we went to Marvel Zombies and this is the horror universe. We just went to the Marvel Universe, but there's a zombie plague. That's no different than, like, when Thanos shows up and he's the threat. The zombies are just the threat of that universe. And so, like, my specific thing with this is just, like, this one flies so differently against the current of the Marvel Universe. And all the other ones are just, like, they're just a Marvel movie again. Just truncated and remixed. And this one, again, you could argue this one is just a Marvel movie again, but I feel like it follows different logic.
I think it's the most different and distinct thing the Marvel Cinematic Universe has given us.
I agree.
I mean, and I mean, I can see where you're coming from, where it's like, yeah, I mean, the problems with the previous What If episodes are that they are part of the Marvel Universe. They don't do anything more.
Like, this one episode 3, yes. And that's fine, but I guess it's because this is the only one that does. I've seen the entire series. This is the only one that does. And, like, if we had gotten an episode that was, like, you know, the Spider-Ham universe, or, like, Marvel Apes, or something that was, like, drastic, then I could just be like, each episode exists in its own logic. And because this one is the only one that is just, like, the logic of this universe is different than the logic of the others. And I'm like, but it's still the MCU multiverse.
And like I said, What If just can kind of absolve that, because I know the idea that they either think they're doing, or they want to do, or, hell, I want them to do, is something like this. You know, I come at it every What If episode going, like, I go into every What If episode being like, okay, this is your chance to do something crazy. Not necessarily like Hangover rom-com, you know, this crazy, like we said, all the other ones are just like slight variations of a Marvel movie, and they're just a Marvel movie. But I still go into each What If episode saying, you can do whatever you want. Why is this what you chose? Same thing with, like, Marvel Zombies. Like, you can do whatever you want. Why not lean into, like, a horror thing? You know, if you're going to make a comedy episode here, make a horror episode here, make this episode there. Like, and I agree they don't do it, but I guess since What If is pitched, and I firmly believe it thinks it is, and I want it to be, and each episode is a different thing, that's what lets me kind of just run away with this. Like, I mean, yeah, I'm fickle and I'm a total hypocrite when it comes to all this stuff. I mean, like you, like, and I've come to know or realize more and more that if I don't like something, it could have just been the fucking day of the week. Like, you give me that on a different day and I might love it. But, I don't know, and you can call me out on this because you listen to it, but I don't feel that I've thrown the Marvel Cinematic Universe under the bus as much with What If and being like, I don't know what it is.
No, What If I think has been fine. I think the only episode is the episode we both agree with the Doctor Strange episode. We were both just like, this is part of the Marvel Universe and therefore this episode does not work.
Yeah.
Like, its logic is aggressively working against the logic that established why this series even happens in the first place.
Yeah.
And I mean, I will say, I had thought of this episode as the monkey's paw the first time through because I didn't like it. But this time, like, this episode does basically what I want the Marvel Universe to do. I don't think it does enough. And I don't think, like, as a comedy, I think it is very clearly a comedy. It definitely has that tone and it nails it. I just don't think it's that funny or interesting. But it's trying something and it's doing it. This is the closest the Marvel Universe has been to doing something that I'm asking of it. And for that, it gets a lot of points.
Yeah, like I said, So, with all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think my broken record statement, or one of the many, is that people love this shit. And there's a lot of instances that I don't get it. Like, I do. People like different things than me, and that's fine.
Is it?
But there's a lot of dumb stuff that I'm just like, how is this so big? Like, how did this just crack it? And with this episode, again, maybe it was just a day I watched it right after I got out of work. I'm not trying to go into these hating them. I tend to. I don't know how much of this is just like biased of doing 36 of these. Whatever. On a different day, maybe I'd be like you and just be like, yeah, I liked it. Whatever, it was fine. But it's also, I think, one of the few things that I'm just like, I can totally understand what people like about this. I think it's just a fun episode, a fun, 30 minutes, 25 minutes. I think it does some good things. I think it kind of hits a lot of the beats. I just didn't care for the beats. I didn't care for the jokes. I didn't care for really anything. But at the same time, like, I don't know what to tell you because I understand why people would like it. It's totally understandable. I think you said that this is more what you want the Marvel Universe to do, and my modus operandi is to take that out of context and twist and turn and turn it into something else, and then you have to backpedal for like 40 minutes as we get into an argument that shouldn't have never started. But like, this isn't what I want the Marvel Universe to be. Yes, do I want the Marvel Universe to be more fun? Yeah. Like, do I want 37 movies that are all like comedies like this? No. And I hope to God that's not what you want. But like, I think this works in a vacuum.
My very like basic
broad
stroke of that sentence is just like, I want Marvel to try something different than just like, here's a Marvel movie, like here's a superhero movie where we quip. This is not a superhero movie. This is very much just like a goofy cartoon, like high school, not high school, but like, this is just like a goofy comedy. Is it hysterical? No. Is it a great comedy? No. But it is very much not, it is very much not another fucking superhero quip machine.
Yeah, and
so that's all that statement meant.
Unfortunately, I think it's going to be the black sheep. I don't think we'll ever get something like this again. I mean, maybe in What If 2. I don't know how this one was received. Maybe in What If 2, they'll have every What If season will now have their token comedy episode, and it'll just get bastardized and flanderized and until we hate that also.
I mean, if they're too scared to do Marvel movies that aren't just a superhero movie, why not use What If to do that? I'll be disappointed because it's going to be truncated into 30 to 35 minutes, but, take your horror pitch and turn it into a 30-minute episode. And just do like, this is the Marvel Universe as a horror movie. This is the Marvel Universe where, as a courtroom drama. This is like, I don't know. This is your...
I totally agree.
Marvel Universe movie where everybody, do the baby Avengers that Scotty Young always draws. Like, this is the universe where they're all fucking babies.
You have
just do Muppet Babies with the Avengers. This is the Captain America and, like I pitched in the Civil War episode, Captain America and Iron Man do Civil War, but they're roommates and they're just dividing their room in half.
Yeah, I mean, this is the...
This is your place to do it. If you're too scared to put it into a gigantic movie, and I understand why.
You have a smaller budget with these episodes. You have a smaller runtime to fill out.
You have the freedom to kind of do whatever the animators are capable of, so you don't have to, like, necessarily bring in the actors again, or... you can just kind of like take whatever characters you want and do whatever you want with them.
And like we say, why make little money when lot money do trick? Unfortunately, again, I hope people liked this one. I didn't look up reviews or anything or IMDb star ratings or whatever. So I literally have no idea if this is the one everyone hated. Like I said, with WandaVision, the stuff we liked, the sitcom parodies, all of the talk I've heard, people hated that part, and they needed more Marvel generic crap. I don't know if that's true here, and this is the one where everyone was like, I want to see more things like the Falcon and Winter Soldier
People
movie,
do like
but,
funny haha.
but Bucky gets the shield. And it's like, okay, well, that's like the same movie. And they're like, I know, I like that movie.
I just want to watch that movie.
I want to watch it again, but I want it to be just a little different, so it feels like I'm watching a new thing, but it's also familiar. I don't like different.
It's like jacking off with your left hand instead of your right. It's still familiar enough that it's safe, but it's just a little different that it's kinky.
Dude, just suck your own dick.
Abandoning that joke.
That's a funny joke on a different day. That's a funny joke.
In the different universe.
You would laugh on a different day. You're all pissed that you didn't do shit today. Do you want to run through it? We haven't even talked about what actually happens in the episode.
Let's run through it. So I will say all of these are like, the pitch is like, the title of the episode is not actually the fracture point.
No.
And in this one, I would say the fracture of like, what if Thor was an only child has nothing to do with this.
No.
Loki in no way kept Thor in check. And he's still buddies with Loki anyway. Like,
yeah,
it's
when Loki
nothing.
showed up, I was just like, wait a minute.
Like, this is like, what if the universe ran on stoner comedy logic?
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. Like, everybody is like a comedy character. Like, Guardians show up, a million aliens, and the Asgardian, like, everybody is just like zany comedy nonsense. And it's fine, but like, the pitch of like, what if Thor was an only child? Loki could have been there. And I don't think anything would have really changed.
Mm-hmm.
You could say like, the Loki of this universe is different, a little more uninhibited. But it doesn't matter. And like, that's fine. That's the through line of what if. Your pitch isn't actually the thing you're showing.
It's getting kind of old. It's getting kind of old of just being like, this isn't what the episode's actually about.
And to be fair, some what ifs are like, what if X instead of Y, and then, you know,
and I mean,
it
I don't know.
spirals
What else,
into something.
What's your short title? I mean, what else can you do? Like,
I mean,
it's not
this
correct,
is basic,
but...
I mean, what if you just called it like, what if Thor never learned his lesson? Because,
Yeah.
I mean, the Thor of this movie is basically just, you know, amped up to comedy levels,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just the same Thor of the Thor movie.
Mm-hmm. He's just not
Like, he's
placed
not
in
he's
check.
not a different person. He's just not, he acts out after, like, this is basically like, what if Odin fell asleep 10 minutes earlier? That's the only real difference.
No, I think
In fact, I think that's a better title for your stupid comedy episode as well. There's just like, what if Odin fell asleep too soon?
I think you beat my game and with both of them, honestly. But I think what if Thor never learned his lesson is very good. I think that is a legitimate title that covers what happens. I mean, not what happens, but at least the episode answers that question appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
And like doesn't ignore it.
But anyways, Thor lands in Las Vegas to party because Odin took his little nap, and Frigga, is it Frigga or Freya? Frigga leaves for the weekend, so he's like, I'm going to go party on the one place that...
This is friggin' mother.
The one place that, what's his face? Who's the... Not Balder.
Surtur.
Who's the guy with the sword that looks over everything?
Heimdall.
Could not remember. Heimdall, for some reason, doesn't see Earth, even though I thought his power was that he literally sees everything all the time.
I think he does. No, he does. It's just he doesn't care. Like, Earth is boring or something, so he doesn't really pay attention to it.
I assume he's paying attention to everything that's happening on Asgard as well.
You'd assume he would just pay attention to whatever Thor was doing, like whatever the Asgardian royal family is up to.
I mean, they have to pass through him to go somewhere anyway. Like, it's not like they have like a secret way to get out of Asgard.
I thought they did. That was like a whole point of one of the movies.
Oh, in one of the movies, but I don't think in this, because Loki's the one. I mean, I guess without Loki, maybe Thor is such a rapscallion that he figured out the secret back way out of Asgard. But like, we don't see it in this, and like you said, I absolutely believe Heimdall, especially with Frigga leaving, should be like, watch Thor, pay attention to what he's doing. You're my narc.
Yeah, especially like if this always happens. But then you don't get funny comedy that you love.
He lands in Nevada. I don't know. He starts partying. They summon a whole bunch of aliens. It's just like first contact. So there's aliens everywhere, and everybody's like learning that aliens exist in this moment. Which, again, running by cartoon logic, is everyone's just like, let's party with the aliens. That's fine.
I don't know. They do the comedy beat of feeling like, oh no, we're all screwed, and then he's like,
no, I know. I'm just saying, like, we never see like news reports or even Shield. It's just kind of like, this is a weird thing that's going on. But he's partying. They're partying nonstop. It's super duper crazy. Shield calls in Captain Marvel. who is a completely different and far more likable character than she is in her own movie.
Yeah, she is.
And I was going to say probably is writing, and I think the animation helps. She's a little more emotive.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking, like, it's still Brie Larson. It's not. So maybe Brie Larson is the problem. I hate to say that. I know she's good in other things, but I'm going to cut that out just because I can be taken horribly out of context later. I don't know. They bring in Captain Marvel. She beats up Thor for a while. There's some fun, goofy fighting. And then Natalie Portman decides to go tattle to Thor's mommy. And then she shows up and he's like, everybody, we got to clean up this party we've been having so my mom doesn't yell at us. And then, again, running on cartoon logic, we see that it only takes like 2 seconds to teleport anywhere because Natalie Portman shows up to Heimdall and then he immediately sends her to Frigga. And then she tells her what's going on, or part of what's going on. But then when Frigga's coming back, it runs on cartoon logic where, like, it takes her forever. But she shows up, they're doing a fake little class somewhere. I don't even know where they are when that's going on.
On Earth.
I know that. But there's like, it looks like Asgard in the background.
On Earth, Asgard. I think that's just called Norway, right?
But they are having a class, and then she's like, oh, Thor, what am I going to do with you? If only you had a brother to keep you in check.
Hey,
evil brother.
You love this episode a bunch. Here's a big problem I have.
The ending, when it's like, now it's time for the multiverse crap.
No, you know what? Fuck you.
Okay, wow.
Here's the thing. I'll take in a 30-minute episode that's entirely different. I'll be the hypocrisy, and I'll say, I thought Ultron looked cool, and because it was just like a thing that lasted 2 seconds, and I didn't know how we got here, and how Thor being an only child made Ultron get the Infinity Stones. But damn it, I'll tell you, it looked cool. And honestly, with the full caveat of if we watched that episode, I would have fucking hated it. But honestly, after I was like, that's a cool idea. I want to explore that.
Okay, well, then you're going to be super pumped for next episode, because my big problem, and I knew this even watching it the first time because I had seen pictures of them, that's the next episode.
But is it directly after this, or is it a different timeline?
It's a different timeline.
Because, like I said, I'm not going to enjoy this. Because they're not going to do what I want them to do.
Because, for me, this is like when Doctor Strange talks to the Watcher at the end of his episode, where I'm just like, couldn't we just have a one-and-done thing? And especially because this episode is so, like, not like anything else in Zany, that I feel like that bit at the end is there to assure you that this matters.
That this isn't only
for anyone
thing.
Who, like you said, the people who didn't like WandaVision, for anyone who's just like, this is
don't worry, we'll get back to your regularly scheduled program.
This is like, don't worry, badass stuff is about to happen. Because, I'm not going to lie, I think that Ultron Vision and the Ultron armor thing looks cool too.
I agree that it does not need to be at the end of this episode. I will say that seeing it at the end of this episode, I think it looks cool. I think it tickles me as much as it would tickle me if I saw someone's fan art of like this Ultron redesign on Twitter or whatever. And I'd be like, yeah, that's baller. I want to explore that. But I'm fine with it in this episode because of that. And because it's like just a 2-second thing. But I totally agree with you that it does not need to be here.
Can I get an apology for the fuck you?
Yeah, that was a comedy bit. I thought you knew comedy bits. You love this episode.
See, but you need to do it a second time.
I need to do it like this.
Months later.
Fuck you. Right?
See,
that's what gets
this
you going.
time I didn't understand. I was going through the logic of all of our episodes.
So
now, when we have this conversation again, I'll know that I'm supposed to be in comedy mode.
See, when you're editing and you're on it the second time, you'll sit there and be like, anyways, you know what I hated?
What did you hate?
I hated... Shit, now we went in all this thing. What were we talking about before you brought up the cool thing of the episode? Oh, missed a comedy beat. I am so surprised, especially because it's kind of in the frame where you think it's going to matter. I am surprised Thor's tattoo did not give him away. Or he didn't do like a thing where he like moves his cape over it.
I thought that too.
I think that is the most missed comedy beat out of all of them. Well, I mean, not out of them, but like out of all the comedy they had, I was like, this is writing itself. Like, that's a good comedy beat. That's a good like womp womp. But nothing mattered. It doesn't matter.
I agree.
Who is your favorite reference cameo? Who are you so glad to see in comedy mode?
I can tell you Darcy was annoying.
Yeah.
I know you don't like Darcy anyway. I don't mind her. In this, I found her a little annoying.
Well, again, she was kind of turned up to 11. I think I was the one who said I didn't mind Darcy a ton. Maybe I flip-flopped on her.
Maybe. The last I remember you talking about her, I remember you not really liking her in Thor 2.
Maybe in
she
Thor
shows up
1,
in WandaVision, and I don't remember you having an opinion one way or another then.
Maybe in Thor 1, I was like, she's fine. And in Thor 2, I was like, oh, everyone loved the Darcy quips.
I like seeing Howard the Duck, but mostly because part of me is like, I'd like to see Howard the Duck in more of a role because he's shown up in 3 things and he's always just a bit part. But I'm also like, I kind of like Howard the Duck just like kind of showing up to say like a dumb bit and then leave.
Yeah, I kind of hold a similar notion where I kind of wish they would just do something with Howard the Duck.
But I think it's like everything else where once you do something, the magic's gone.
Yeah, I mean, I could totally see that. And I mean, I don't know, the marriage to Darcy is whatever. And like I said, I'm sure it's a fine joke, like whatever. But yeah, every time I see him, I'm always just like, just do something with him.
I think the other cameo that I liked, I do like seeing Loki. And he's like a big frost giant. Because he's a frost giant.
No, he's like a halfling, isn't he?
No, he's a full frost giant. He just like makes himself... I don't remember how the logic of Loki works.
I thought I was reading something.
Maybe he is. Regardless, the idea of him being like a full giant in this one, I don't know. There's nothing really special to it, but like, he's fine. I liked when he was...
It's just there to be different.
I liked when he was playing with the tiny phone.
You would. What about when Thor made a joke about him being like a brother, and you were like... I know, the real universe, he is a brother.
Yep, that's exactly what I did. I pointed at the screen with my beer in my hand.
I'm giving this... I was very nice to this episode earlier. I'm giving it a little bit of a hard time. It's fine. Like I said, I think the comedy's there. I just didn't like it.
And like I think I'm talking more highly of it mostly because I was just impressed by how much I didn't hate it this time.
Well, I was worried. I think early on in this episode, I was like giving it a lot of passes and being like, yeah, I totally understand. Like this is like a goofy thing, whatever. It just doesn't work for me. And you were we were talking about like how it fits into the Marvel Cinematic Universe and all that stuff. But I thought this was going to be one of those episodes where it's like, I liked it. And then you're like, I hated it. And then we flip-flop for the discussion. It's just like, okay, well, I hated this. And it's like, no, that was so good. But yeah, I mean, the pessimist in me, I think it makes sense, but the pessimist in me kind of sat there and was like, good thing they did not that it wouldn't matter because I don't know the production order, but like all these characters were in it because we had the Guardians episode, and they're just like, we already have these characters ready to just put on a mannequin model. But I don't know. I didn't need to see like Gorax or whatever Hulk's buddy is or Thor's buddy is, whoever's Taika Waititi.
But when you have a bunch of aliens, you got to do the callbacks, but the Marvel universe is so small and insular. Like there's nowhere to go. There's no one to show up. Like I've said in other episodes, you can't have Bug show up or anybody because they don't want to have anybody show up that could potentially show up in something else in a real capacity. Mm-hmm. And then they're contradicting themselves by having them be even in a what if universe. Like they don't want to do it. You're never going to see MODOK in these until he shows up in something else. You're never going to see...
Do you even think we'll see MODOK now that there's like the MODOK show?
I think there's still a possibility.
Did you watch that
Probably
show?
Not. I have not. I don't have Hulu.
Oh, I do, and I didn't watch it.
I heard people really like it.
Yeah, I feel like I remember people liking it. I'm surprised. I was excited for it, and then it came out, and I was just like, yeah, in like 40 years, I'll forget about it, and then I won't have to remember to watch it. Yeah, I don't know. I just like, kind of like, I mean, this is a different set of circumstances here, of course, but like with Drax, I kind of had flashbacks to the Guardians episode where he was just like a bartender, and I was like, none of this makes any, like, I don't buy it. This isn't like a funny joke. Just like, Drax is the Dave Bautista strong guy, but now he's a goofy man. And it's just like, and I guess
again, it's just like at least in his appearance at the bar, it's like his planet was never attacked by Thanos and his wife and child never died. But in this, it's like, again, you could say maybe that happened, or maybe, this is a goofy comedy universe, so his family died and he just went off and partied to forget his problems. But like in this, it's like the idea that like Thor never had a brother, that Odin returned Loki to the Frost Giants. I mean, it gives peace, I guess, between the Asgardians and the Frost Giants, supposedly. We don't see that clearly, but like... I
mean, the Frost Giants like Thor.
It's pretty easy to infer as much. But like, it somehow like fractures out into the entire universe that everybody's just like a zany party guy.
Yeah. That's because Thor's parties brought everybody together. Do you think Thanos was killing or was going to kill Drax's family? And then that's when Thor showed up and they partied. And then they were just like, you know what? You're a good guy, Thanos and Drax. And Drax's
family. He showed up and then they shoved a slide whistle in his mouth and he went, whoop, and he's just like, you know what? Comedy's better.
Comedy is more fun than
murder
death.
Again. But yeah, anything else?
Captain Marvel stuff was fun. I agree with you that I think animation did her really well. I've kind of not really cared for a lot of the animation in these episodes and liking them to Telltale
I thought
games.
everybody looked pretty good in it. Like, it's
I
still
still
got that
hate the
Telltale
lips
thing
that they
you're talking
animate.
about. But like, I remember last episode saying that like Tony Stark and a couple other people looked really weird.
Mhm.
Because they just like had to do more work, I guess, to make them look like the actor or whatever. But in this, like, everybody looked close enough to their actors.
And I don't know if
but
there's
it did
some of that
feel
past
overworked.
being a comedy. You
Maybe.
can kind of get away with them being a little more cartoonized. I mean, I don't really think... Maybe it's just because I'm so used to seeing Chris Hemsworth with his beard and short hair anymore. But I don't think Thor really looked like Chris Hemsworth a ton.
And I think some of that is just like, Thor just really needs to be like meaty and blonde.
Yeah.
And the rest of that just kind of flies. But like, I don't know, Tony Stark has such a distinct look. And when they're specifically aping a movie,
Mhm.
I think
That's what I
they
mean,
have to
yeah.
try a little harder. Whereas in this one, like, there's nothing really beyond the beginning.
Like I said, I mean, it's more comedy, so it feels more cartoony and you can get a little more abstract.
But like, I think Captain Marvel is much better in this. I feel like she has an actual personality. She's not just like a wet piece of bread.
The animation does way better with her powers than CGI does.
That's also true. I think her powers look cool.
I think a lot
she's
of that
fun to
Thor
watch.
Captain Marvel fight was actually really impressive.
I agree. I think there's a lot of fun stuff going on.
There's
in
a
it.
lot of small animations and like the dust and the smoke and like when she throws him into the Siberian mountains, like you can see like the ripple.
They both feel powerful in a way that nobody does in the movies, and I think it's because everything gets to be exaggerated some, so they're like literally punching each other into other countries. I loved the countries all had their names over them.
I think that was a
I
good
thought
joke.
that was a good gag.
Especially like just like punching him to, from France to the UK and then the UK to, no, I guess it was just France to the UK or whatever. But I think that was a good joke. But I don't necessarily think their power seemed stronger. Like, I don't think their power was turned up like the comedy was. And maybe that's just because I can look at that, punching them to different countries as a comedy bit, which is
Sure,
probably
but I'm also
a little,
just saying, like,
yeah,
even just watching, I'm not even talking the punching between countries. Like, that is a very clear, like, that's not something I don't see anybody being able to do in the movies.
right.
But even just, like, their general, just, like, fist fighting and stuff, everybody felt like they were, like, really kind of, like, slamming into each other, and
I feel like we've
it
seen
felt more
that.
aggressive.
But maybe,
I mean, I think some of it is like powers heightened in animation
Yeah.
just because they can. But I think another bit of it is just like dynamic camera.
yeah.
Like I keep saying, the camera is so static when you're filming people.
Well, and a real human body has a limited range of motion. With an animation, you can extend the arm so that it looks like it goes back further. You can do a lot more.
But I'm even talking just like the camera movement. Like the camera's just like put in positions. We were talking about that video Netflix put up of Cowboy Bebop with the difference between the animation and the live action. And we don't have to get into that whole discussion. It boils down to you and I kind of disagree.
No, we
although
agreed. I didn't think the Twitter argument needed
the Twitter argument.
I
was
agree
like,
that animation was
live action shouldn't exist because animation is better, which is stupid.
But I thought both of them looked fine.
I think both of them look good, but I think when you put them side by side, the animation looks distinctly better because it has more style, more movement, and the camera, like when you put them side by side, the live action is fine on its own, but side by side, the live action looks so static because the camera is just kind of like wider, more still. It doesn't really move as much. Like there's that one shot of like the gun going right up against the other guy's chest. I'm describing something that
we have no
unrelated
idea.
to this.
But
anyway,
I agree.
But like in this, I feel like there were some times where the camera moved that they just wouldn't bother with. I mean, you could do in live action, but most people don't bother with because it involves way more effort than just telling in animation. I don't do animation, but I assume it's just like moving something around. You can just like move the camera somewhere and focus on that area. But in a physical thing, you got to move things. The actor might be in the way of a lens.
To be fair, a lot of the Marvel movies are CGI anyways, and full CGI screens, and they could do more. But then again, if in those completely CGI scenes, they do move you have to keep a steady tone or a steady, feel. You can't just... And now in the CGI scene, we can flip around and do a whole bunch of crap. But now we're back to having a real person in the shot. And so, it has to be more grounded. But, yeah, I mean...
The one thing I will say about the power levels, though, and this is just my complaint about... Not really Captain Marvel, but my complaint about the Marvel Universe is, in this, much like in our own movie, in this, she says, like, if I hit him with full force, like, I put a crater in the planet. And that's fine in theory, but the Marvel Universe is so grounded and everybody's power levels are so low that having her be so insanely powerful, in this, as a comedy thing, it's fine. Not just like it's so funny that she could punch, but just like in this where the entire world is so heightened just by comedy standards, it's fine. And like part of the thread is like, this person's really powerful, but it's so funny that they gotta like rein it in. I just don't like how powerful she is. And this is nothing against Captain Marvel. This is not saying a woman can't be the most powerful person in the universe. It's just the universe is so weak compared to her that it's just like, why not have her do literally everything? She is so powerful. She could have stopped Thanos forever ago. Yeah. And it's like I said, and I'm getting into a completely different thing, but just like I said in Endgame, like there's no reason she couldn't have stopped Thanos as soon as he showed up, but they have to have a fight where he's like, I'm using the Power Stones to punch her and she just can't stop me. And it's like, I watched her movie. She could easily stop you. She could just like,
well, and even when she does show up,
arm
like,
off at the elbow.
I mean,
she takes out like half his ships.
We complained when she does show up in Endgame, and it's just kind of like a girl power moment, but then nobody does anything because she just kills everybody. It's just like, okay, but like that's not interesting to watch. But I agree here that, I mean, she felt strong enough. I don't care that. I think actually here, and maybe it's just in the animation world here, it gets a bye. And I mean, I know she's strong in like the cinematic universe, but here she felt right to me. I was fine with this power level.
So I think that's it, unless you have anything.
Yeah, this is a hard episode to talk about just because since it is a comedy episode, like, what do we do? Like, retell all the jokes? What do we, like, do we say, like, what'd you think of this joke? I liked it. I laughed. I also laughed. It was funny.
So, Seth, give me your 2 put-ups and a put-down.
Well, my first put-up is going to be the Captain Marvel Thor fight. Like you, I think them punching to other countries is a fine joke. But really, I think the animation was very impressive in all of this. When they're fighting in the storm clouds, I think it looks really nice. I think there's a lot of nice exaggerated movement. I think there's just a lot of good stuff all around. And I guess that's both my put-ups, because my second put-up was going to be nothing. And then I was going to say that when they punched them to other planets or other countries was a good joke. I'm trying to think if I have a better put-up, but I really don't know. Like I said, I think this is, if somebody came to me, and like you did, somebody came to me and said, I really like that episode, I'd be like, I can totally see it. Like, that makes a lot of sense, did a lot of things. I just didn't care. But yeah, I think that is my 2 put-ups, is the Captain Marvel fight as a whole, and the animation therein, and then the joke with them punching to other countries. Maybe that's 3. I don't know. You can do whatever you want with those. Do you think that's a cop-out, Andrew?
Nope, that's fine.
Okay. My third put-down is going to be... There's a lot of stuff I could say here, because a lot of stuff honestly didn't work for me. I will say, in the context of the episode, not... cycling back to the tattoo is a big missed opportunity. And I think that was kind of... Hey, I'm going to say Ultron showing up at the end for 2 seconds and let me look at a fucking Twitter fan art that I liked. Just did not cop out. So I think the put down is just that missed opportunity of a callback on the tattoo. They kind of... It's not framed in the scene, but it's noticeable enough. And to not really utilize that as, you know, the parents come home and, I mean, they didn't really even do anything. How does he get caught? Oh, his hammer. I guess that's true.
Yeah, his hammer comes back and it's got crap on it, which I think is also a fine joke.
But I guess, like, the tattoo, I think, is a better way.
I will say the tattoo is the joke that I saw coming and it never did. Because I was like you, thinking, like, she's going to see that tattoo. Especially because after he gets it through the entire episode, you can always see it.
Yeah, and it's on the side she shows up on. And, like, even if, again, there wasn't the moment in a party comedy like this where it's like, we all have to clean up. We got 15 minutes. My parents are coming home early. And then there's, like, the parents come home and they're like, oh, I'm glad to see you guys didn't throw parties. And then somebody, either the parent or the party goers, see, like, underwear.
There's a bra hanging on a
or like
a ceiling fan,
or like there's something in they have to like shove something in the couch cushions or something to hide it. There wasn't really that, and whether or not Frigga sees the tattoo and calls him out on it, or he's just like, we're just sitting here studying, and makes a grand gesture, and it's like really prominent on his arm, and then he just kind of like covers it with his cape. It was just something that, like, I don't know, that's like how you write comedy. you do a callback and you have that. But I was kind of unimpressed with the hammer. I understand how it works as a joke. I just wanted something that, like, he missed. I mean, I don't know. Personal thing. Anyways, Andrew, that was one hell of a put up and put down segment for me. So you clean this sucker up.
My first put up is going to be the one joke that I did laugh at. And it's when, it's not this moment itself, but when Captain Marvel shows up, Thor says, like, they have a word for a woman like you. And there's a long pause, and then he says, party pooper.
And you laughed when he said
the joke?
pooper?
No. When he says that, there's a bit of silence, and then there's one guy, very quiet, who goes, ha ha ha.
Yeah.
That got me. I love, like, anytime there's, like, a gag happening in the background, or, like, there's, like, something, like, quietly off camera, that stuff always hits me, right? Mm-hmm. And so that hit me. I laughed at that. Little baby put up to the words over the countries. I always smiled when I saw those.
That's a very, like, Steven Spielberg Warner Bros. Cartoon, like Animaniacs gag, or...
I think that is the clearest sign of, like, we are living in a cartoon logic world, even if those are diegetic or not.
Diegetic? That's like what L. Ron Hubbard tried to convince everybody to read.
Anyway.
That's a good joke. Leave that sucker in and alienate all our Scientology listeners.
My second put up is Captain Marvel in this. I would watch a movie with this Captain Marvel. She had personality. She was fun to watch. She was likable. She had, her dry sense of humor worked better than the dry sense of humor of the, like, she's very deadpan.
But she has a personality because Maria Hill is more of the straight person that is dry, but Maria Hill doesn't need or really have jokes, whereas since Captain Marvel is a more prominent character in this, she still needs to have jokes. I liked the bit that won me over with her, where I realized, like, I like this Captain Marvel. It was when Darcy's kind of talking to her about a cat and everything, and then she's like, Darcy, you're at 11, and I need you at, like, 5. She said something along those lines. I'll allow it.
But whatever it is she said, like, that was something where I was like, okay, I like her. Like, she's still a little, like I said, like, kind of dry, deadpan, but, like, she's got personality. She's, like, friendly, but she's still kind of, like, sarcastic, like, in her movie. Like, it was the movie, she was the version of Captain Marvel that I think the Captain Marvel movie thought we were watching. Mm-hmm. So I liked her. And if she is like that in Captain Marvels, or The Marvels, or whatever her new movie is called, I'm all for it. I would actually be excited to watch that movie. It'll still be the same Marvel muck, but maybe I'll like her for once. My put down is going to be... It's hard to really single out the one thing. Like I said, I kind of like this episode. I think it's one of the better what ifs, but there's not enough that I really loved. It's just mostly I didn't find myself as annoyed with it. But I think my put down is going to be Paul Bettany showing up at the end. And it's reminder, like you said, I knew the first time through knowing that this was tie into something else. If that was just the end of the episode, where it was just like, everybody had fun, but now, every episode ends with a little twist. This is that twist.
Which for me it is, because
yeah, in and of itself it's fine, but knowing that this is just like tying into something else, and it's just like, this is like I said, this felt like the panicked boardroom being like, we gotta let people who don't like this episode's different, and we gotta let the people who didn't like the different know that it's still important, and that the cool Marvel stuff they want to see is coming.
See, and I guess I didn't even watch it.
It rubs me the wrong way.
Again, it felt like the ego thing. It felt like the Thanos thing at the end of the last episode.
And like I said, in isolation, it very much is. The problem is I know that that's not what it is.
Can we get back into the episode for a little bit?
Yeah, why not?
We didn't really talk about the Captain Marvel bits after she, quote-unquote, fails the first time, and she's talking to Maria Hill. But I was confused, and I know it's because we need a timer, but I was confused about the whole, like, Maria Hill wanting to launch the nukes in case Captain Marvel would get distracted by a cat, but they're also, like, watching them, and, like, Captain Marvel is just kind of sizing him up, and it doesn't look like it looks like she's going to fight him and do what everybody said they'll do, but then Maria Hill is still just like, just launch the nukes. We don't fucking care.
I agree. Like you said, it's for like the little drama timer, and so that they can have the gag with what's-his-face, future Crossbones, being like, we never get to fire the nukes.
Yeah.
Like, it's there for the joke, and that's fine. Like I said, I kind of let a lot of this fly because I was just like, as long as it's in service of some kind of joke, whether I thought it was funny or not,
It was just something that was one of the times where I was just like, what you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like, why would you make this plan and then just be like, we're gonna launch nukes too? Yeah, I understand that like your hero won't be affected, she'll survive, so whatever, but like, I don't know.
They're also treating it like, I don't completely understand.
I didn't think Captain Marvel knew that the nukes were...
No, but what I'm saying is, like, I also didn't understand the threat of the Asgardians in the party. Like, I understand that that's distracting and they are destroying some stuff, but Maria Hill is like, this is the end of the world. We have to launch a nuke at Thor, and if we blow up Thor, then the party is just over, because it's like the Avengers movie, and if we blow up Thor, he's got like a hive mind, all the partiers, and they'll just like drop like marionettes with their strings cut.
Well, they have to come together to mourn.
It's just like a weird like threat thing where I was just like, I don't really understand the threat. It seems like Captain Marvel's kind of got this handled. I don't really know if blowing up Thor is your answer for everything.
Yeah, I don't think they need to blow up Thor, but then again, like, I mean, you could argue that there's multiple solutions to this problem, which is Thor's partying.
Because if it was like Loki's doing something and Thor steps in to stop him, and then if this was Nick Fury, I could see Nick Fury being like, as a backup plan, if we can't stop Loki because he's going to like blow up this bus full of children, we'll use a nuke and I guess also blow up this bus full of children, but then it'll be like, then he wouldn't do it. And that's all that matters. I get that logic of like, this is the plan B, and also like, I'm the stuck-up, hard-nosed, gruff military person who just wants to launch these nukes because I don't believe that anybody else is going to do it. It's my way or the highway. I kind of get that. It's just like, in this specific moment, I was like, is he really that much of a threat? Is their party really that much of a threat? They took out like, they accidentally like took out the power in like half the country or something.
No, but the whole thing is that like the last time the signal came through before he showed up, like a planet exploded.
Oh yes, I did. You're right.
You were
I
probably
forgot
a little
about
too
that.
tied up in the party pooper joke.
This is very funny.
Sorry, the party pooper joke wasn't funny. The haha.
That's a no-no joke. Yeah, but that guy got it.
He got to say
like, you can't say
pooper.
poop.
He said,
You can't say poop.
He said,
My mom would ground me if I said poop.
Here, so I can say pooper. You know, we have a word for that, Thor. It's called being a party pooper. And then in the background, instead of haha, he goes, "Oh no, you didn't. I'm gonna go tell. You can't say that word. That's the P word."
Anyway, bada bing, bada boom.
Thanks for hanging out with us. If you like this, tell a friend. If you didn't, then lie to a friend. Check us out on Twitter at SoHowAbout. You can find me on Twitter at SethKumpf. You can find Andrew on Twitter at TessuDownist. And subscribe to us on YouTube at SoHowAbout.
And join us next time when we do this once more with interference.
Watcher. Poop.
Seth, what are we watching?
Well, Andrew, I'm glad you asked. We're going to be watching episode 8 of What If, and it's called something to do with Ultron.
There's something about Ultron.
What if Ultron won? What if Ultron won Avengers 0? In which I assume I get my stupid monkey's paw wish, and we see Ultron with the Infinity Stones. And instead of it just being a cool Twitter fan art, it's a whole 30-minute episode that's just like a Marvel movie. And it's going to be Endgame, but instead of a purple man, it's a robot man. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Was that a yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Here's another prediction. Is this going to be a two-parter?
Mm-hmm.
I'm so smart. Because what if Ultron 1 is going to be the Infinity War, and then what if the last episode is going to be Endgame?
I wouldn't go that far,
Okay.
but you'll see.